ZHANG, Rui MA, Shiyu HE, and Fan YU. Voice of Architecture 2023, Wenshu Monastery, When a Temple Meets a Church. Essay by ZHANG, Rui MA, Shiyu HE, and Fan YU.
I'm Professor Zhang Yu.
I'm Ma Rui.
I'm Shiyu.
I'm Yu Fan.
Introduction.
Our team consists of 4 members. An associate professor, Zhang Yu, it's me, and 2 graduate students, Ma Rui and He, and the first-class registered architect, Yu Fan. Professor Zhang devoted himself in the field of architectural history for 2 decades, while the other 3 members keep an interest in architectural history in the recent 2 years. It is the registered architect, Mr. Yu, who suggested to participate in this competition. So we established our team. And we thought the essay competition is challenging and interesting because both the academic knowledge of architectural history and graphic design ability is required. And we believe learning from history could be vital help in understanding what we are going through and where we are going to.
Essay overview.
The starting point of our winning essay is the English word temple, because we think its meaning is worth for elaborating. When we mention the word temple in Chinese language, 寺庙, we usually refer to the Buddhist and Taoist temple. But in English, the word temple is originated from the Latin word templum, with a specific set of meanings for the religion of the ancient Rome. However, the word is now become widely used to describe various architecture from the Patinan in Greece to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. It inspired us to write our essay in a wider horizon, and that is why our essay was finally titled When the Temple Meets a Church. The word temple has the same root as the word template, and the plan in preparation of the building that was marked out on the ground. Similarly, in our essay, we try to explore the temple architecture from the angle of its layout plan. Through our research, we get to know that the initial layout of a Buddhist temple is distinct from now. In South Asia, a typical temple was organized around a sacred monument, for example, a stupa or a great hall. However, Wenshu Monastery represents a completely different special charm. No stupa, no great hall, no single monument. The contrast raises intriguing questions. We were inspired by one question. For the people who designed Wenshu Monastery, why did they choose a layout without a single monument? It is also our unique challenge to find some design principles behind it.
Historical significance.
The history of a certain temple architecture could be regarded as 2 histories. One is the history of the building construction. The other is the history of the discovery of this architecture. So the historical significance of Wenshu Monastery is abandoned in the latter rather than the former. So we emphasize that in our essay. It is hard to refer to any specific historical or regional style. Instead, we find quite a lot of fascinating spaces in the corridors and courtyards in Wenshu Monastery. Therefore, it makes a solid foundation to compare the space of a temple with that of the other building types, say a church.
Temples as cultural symbols.
In our essay, we list so many foreign scholars from UK, Japan, Germany, USA, and Denmark who picked this temple as their must-go place, which implies the temple as the cultural marker of the city of Chengdu and of China. Here, we cite a few phrases from the Danish architect Johan Priepmøller's Chinese Buddhist monasteries. Many monasteries were burned and destroyed them, but often rebuilt on exactly the same foundations as before. It is therefore possible to form an opinion as to monastic plan design typical of past centuries in places where the standing structures are actually not more than from 60 to 70 years old at most. In Wenshu Monastery, it is exactly the same case, that the temple layout and the monastic life could transcend time and cultural boundaries.
Research and analysis.
Studying the past is to serve the future, so we apply a research method through this essay competition, stripping the physical appearance, restoring the historical building to its most authentic functions, and then discovering the principles, which are the core of the historical building or its original characteristics rather than the simple forms and decorations. We once read an essay that mentioned the famous Danish architect Zhang Wuzong's fascination with traditional Chinese architecture, and we noticed that he designed a church with a unique plan surrounded by a corridor connecting several buildings with courtyards. Through our analysis, we finally summarized 4 principles for the architectural space of Wenshu Monastery and compared them with those of Wuzong's church, and it works. The traditional architectural forms in the 20th century still provide people with the experience of the progressive process of space and the order of worship to achieve the unity of the spiritual level and the functional level. It is an important breakthrough point for us to study history and look forward to the future.
Preservation and restoration.
We didn't discuss in our essay for the restoration because Wenshu Monastery is now in good preparation condition. And we think the best strategy to preserve a historic temple is to put it into daily use. The monks will carefully adjust the architectural space according to their daily use behavior and finally form a rich level of temple places. When we have a deeper understanding of the historical context and core values that make up the temple, we will pay equal attention to the seemingly minor architectural parts such as the corridors, courtyards, and gardens, which are just as important as the main halls.
Advice for aspiring historians.
For the aspiring historian, I want to say there should be a link between knowledge points, so don't talk about each of the architectural styles. Talk about the links and evolution between them. For the most effective strategy in our essay, just focus on the research of people, the people who have closely watched the temple. It is the people in successive generations, including us, who tell a good story of the temple.
Reflection on winning.
We feel proud, not only because we get awarded, but also because Wenshu Monastery in Chengdu, China is now being introduced to the world.
A good story or a good essay can unite people all over the world, and the next thing to do is to find the place in the story and the people there.
For latest architecture competitions, visit Archiol Competitions.